I think one way is by finding advisors who would find what you're doing interesting, and I think that there are actually a lot of really talented and senior people who want to help startups, genuinely want to help them, and will reach into their network and make connections for you.
Cold emails, man. Cold emails. Especially now, VCs are kind of still stuck on that warm introduction tip, and it's going to be a long slog and a lot of blog posts and yelling on Twitter to get them off. But when you're talking about just the beginning stages of bootstrapping your network, when you're talking about going out to coffee with people, that's a moment where you can really just email someone, right? You find their information, you say, hey, I'm new to the city, I need help. There was a point where everyone was new, and people didn't have networks, and they got them somehow, whether it was going to school, whether it was attending events and stuff. And sometimes you just have to start from zero and build your way up. And when people start who are interested in your product, when they hear about it, right, they're going to want to tell other people about it, and the network will just form organically. And that's a good way to test whether your company is as great as you think. If you keep talking to all these experts and you're telling them about it, and they're not really giving you introductions to other people, then maybe kind of think about that as well. So I mean, I think it has twofold, and you might make some friends too, and that's
all of you tomorrow we're gonna have our emails. Copy that. We're gonna push you with emails. We're doing that already, trying to make people going in the city. That's why you are here. With no state.
Right, yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what you should be doing. But I mean, you might want to just shoot me and Dell at BackstageCapital.com.
We'll do that.
I really liked what you were saying about warm introductions. I think they should be banned too. In the spirit of that, will you go out to coffee with me?
Makes sense.
I might say yes, I might say no. It's always up to the other person, but it's worth a shot, right?
Makes sense. Thank you.
So I wanted to know what you like to see in terms of traction when you think about investing in healthcare technology startups versus other areas that you mentioned.
Is the FDA approved required?
No,
Okay.
Not a medical device, just healthcare technology.
Oh, okay. Like for us specifically, I can't really speak for everybody else. Again, like everyone has different preferences. For us, it would be like some data from a proof of concept already. So like a pilot launch, and then there's some feedback from the customer, whether it's positive or negative. Because if it's positive, that's really great. If it's negative, at least you know what to fix, right? So actually to show that you can change your product or to find product market fit. So that's really the point of it. Like traction is really figuring out whether you have product market fit and have some evidence that it does.
Any more questions?
I'm really interested that a couple of people mentioned MRR as like a metric for, finding product market fit. But what I'm thinking about is there's a couple of different businesses where that comes later. Like, where the Snapchat or something, like how much money they make in the beginning, right, versus what they make. The actual trajectory of the growth is to kind of get adoption and then get it. Like, is there any allowance for that, or no? Like, people want to see that you're at least making money from the beginning.
I'll talk about the experience that I have at Westchester Angels, and with our group, we understand that if it's a pure eyeballs play, so in other words, I have to create a community of 1 million users to start to be able to start to monetize that, then we shy away from that, because the truth is that we know that it's going to take a lot of money, well beyond what we can do and the next round can do, and my group itself doesn't have the appetite for that. Having said that, if there's some sort of good, some sort of goods that you can sell, or some sort of way of monetizing, even if it's just a transactional-based way to get there, then that's a story that I can bring to my group. But that's not to say that you should be discouraged, because there are plenty of investors that look for that type of play. I think that with a play like that, you might need a group of investors who have experience in that area, who basically have the appetite for that type of runway, because it requires a long runway and a lot of money to get to where an investor might get their money out of it.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, and this also speaks to the digital health as well, is looking at organic growth. So if monthly active users is sort of one of the metrics, let's say you have monthly active users, to your point, you're not making revenue off of them, but you're seeing really good organic growth, meaning you're not having to pay for each user. Your CAC costs are relatively low, and your LTV, maybe you haven't figured that out necessarily, but your monthly active users are organically growing. We invested in a company that we had actually tracked for like a year, and he had grown his monthly active users without any marketing or outreach from 250 to over 1 million in 8 months' time. So that's a good sign of, okay, this is a product and market that folks are using. Another thing to look at too is just strategic sort of channel partners. How do you have any traction? Are you getting anywhere with some really good strategic partners that are going to, scale you and get you from here to here quickly? So I'd say those are sort of two things that maybe, as an investor, to outline and look at.
It's really tough because a lot of investors want to see some sort of indicia of traction, and it usually has to be significant. We don't necessarily need to see that, even for a company of that variety, and there are other funds that are like that as well. I know funds that will write you 250K, 500K with just a pitch deck, right, if you're the right team. And, I don't know about New York, I'm still trying to meet them in New York, but I know for sure in the Bay Area, there are a few. And so you might want to be targeting them if you think it's something that, it's just going to be a real slog without the infusion of initial capital to get there. Then you might have to just start thinking about, okay, are there angels who have invested in companies that have, gone on to be unicorns before that, would be interested in investing in me because of your particular background or whatever, or the idea is so compelling. You have to find them. You have to find the pre-seed funds. They're few and far between and very mighty, and people like us, and just kind of cobble around together. And then from that, you can launch and go to the people who need to see the 100K.
I think you hear that a lot because a business that has monthly recurring revenue, that's a very attractive business model, and investors like to see that. But it does take some time to build that. We invest only in B2B companies, so MRR is a metric that we can look at. But a lot of times you see founders who they kind of start off with more consulting revenue, and actually when they show us their revenue traction, they'll kind of gray that out, but they'll just show us the MRR. So if you can, I just say, let's say it's not a traditional MRR business, try to think about different ways you can make your business model more attractive, more sticky, and make sure that you highlight those when talking about your model to investors.
What is your average attention span in a pitch when you're kind of listening to a pitch? And second one is, in each of your minds, what are the exciting themes or trends things that you're excited about in terms of trends that you want to invest in the future, in the next year?
That's a good question. Attention span. So I'm a former founder myself, so I know what it takes to start a business, and it's blood, sweat, and tears. It's so much work. It's your everything. So I feel like it's my job to pay attention to every word that's spoken, no matter how long the meeting goes for. So I just have I think we all probably have a lot of respect for our founders' time, and it's our job to pay attention. A lot of times we're also like reading between the tea leaves, so we really need to listen to every word that's said. As far as trends go, we are, one space we're invested heavily in is HR tech, and we're invested in a few companies that are making the hiring process into more of a science. One company we just invested in is called Upsider, that is basically bringing AI and a completely data-driven approach to the sourcing process. So right now it's just putting out job descriptions and getting a bunch of resumes. They actually have a database of every employable person in the country. They're figuring out exactly what kind of profiles make the most sense for the position, and then they have this interesting marketing process to getting candidates who are not actively searching into their funnel. And I think hiring as a founder is one of the biggest pain points, and to apply science to that is really interesting to us.
Let's start with attention span. I think it's very important to be a storyteller. And if the founder is not particularly comfortable presenting, then somebody else on the team should be telling that story. I think that's really what really captures people's attention as a storyteller. The second thing is that I can't tell you how often people just read PowerPoint slides to an audience. And that is like the death knell of attention as far as I'm concerned. You know, it could be a little prop and a little sort of, you know, it's just up there to have maybe a main point, but it's really the person that has to tell the story and not rely on bullet points. In terms of, I don't know if it's a conscious effort, but we tend to invest in a lot of companies that provide a sort of dashboard environment to bring together multiple solutions and make the life easier of the administrator inside of a company. So whether it's the marketing department needs one sort of place to go to bring together all the tools, or, I mean, it cuts across a lot of industries, a lot of divisions of labor, a lot of departments, but those companies that make life easier for workers by using technology tend to get a lot of attention from us.
Attention span, I'll give you my full attention, because the idea being that even if we're not going to put money into your company, we might refer you to some of the people that we work with, because it's really a network. It's a multiplayer game, honestly. So the second one was in terms of trends. We're pretty traditional, so cybersecurity is a big one for us, especially with GDPR, all these data leaks you hear every single day. There's going to be more, just because all the complexity of software infrastructures nowadays in big enterprises. So we see a lot of stuff there. My background is engineering, so another big trend that interests me is edge computing. It's really how do you allow computers to make faster decisions by doing analytics on the edge of a giant network, right? Because everything's connected. It takes time to actually send data from the edge of the network into a central server, and then decision back. So how do you basically compartmentalize different decision-making process within the edge nodes of a network?
So I said something earlier, and that is it's you should think of it. Well, I think of when you pitch me as an honor, and so I will give you my full attention, especially if I ask for the meeting or I accepted the meeting. I mean, if you come up to me while I'm having dinner and try to pick me, which some people do, then I reserve my right to resend that. But if this is a structured meeting, then I want to talk to you. I want to learn about you for good, for bad, even if we're not a fit. And yeah, I love sending out companies to other folks in the network, because our thesis, it's all women, minorities, and members of the LGBTQ community. There's some founders that don't fit that profile. They think that, oh, well, I shouldn't talk to Dell. Maybe. I mean, depends how well you're doing in other spots, because I might flip you over to Han, or I might, I have a large network myself. Second, we're agnostic. We are rumbling about moving in certain directions, but I love the fact that we've invested in 100 companies, and we invested in a drone that stops bullets. We invested in a cookie. We invested in technology that stops unconscious bias in the hiring process. We've invested in the company that's doing new experiments with kinetic energy, Tesla S, and basically building new smart cities. So, I mean, the cookie, by the way, doesn't have the 26 most common allergies. So if you're a parent, you can give it to anyone's kid and know that they're gonna live. So it's actually really easy, right? You gotta dig deeper into some of these ideas sometimes. But the point is that we think that good ideas can come from any place and anywhere, and that's why we're super open. We have a large team, and we're there we'll listen to everyone. We might not agree with the direction that a founder is going, but we'll definitely listen.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I'm a huge fan of less is more. If you're going to come in and present, don't have a ton of verbiage on the slide. Have know your story. And then I would say from and yes, you'll have my attention the entire time that you're pitching, but if you're interesting and you bring humor, you bring something into the pitch, all the better. That'll be entertaining. But from an investment standpoint, one of the areas that Quake is investing in is 5G. Everything from infrastructure to everything in and around 5G. That's an area that we're definitely investing in. I mean, I think to everyone's point on the panel, we're agnostic. We're always open to new ideas, fabulous founders and teams. So yeah, that would be what I would add.
Thank you.
So I have a question. For all these different companies that pitch to you, do you place more emphasis and weight on a kick-ass product or a founding team?
Okay, I'll start with that. I think that universally, unless you guys want to disagree with me, I would answer that team all the time. The common thing that I always hear is you bet on the jockey, not the horse. Because there's a lot more confidence that the team can pivot if they're a good quality team, whereas a mediocre team with a great idea is probably not likely to pull it off. So, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I know that from our perspective, it's always the team if you have to pick one or the other.
Absolutely. I think some of the best companies in the world have pivoted multiple times, like at Netflix, Airbnb. But if you invest in a really strong team, everything from EQ to IQ, their experience, their background, their network. In this past cohort, we invested in somebody that just had an insanely great background, network, great founder, and very early stage, much earlier stage than we ever would have. So absolutely, I would invest in a team over product. Most likely, all products are going to pivot, so having the right team in place is key.
I'd say it depends. If you have a great team, but they're going after a problem that you don't think is a problem, and it's too small of a market, and I think it's too hard for them to pivot into something that will work. And sometimes you just see an amazing product where you're like, this product's so good, and this team is a little bit of a dud, but this product is so good. So I just think it depends in every situation.
Yes. It really depends on stages, honestly. Because as your company grows, the kind of people you need are going to change. And most likely it will change. So that's really hard to say. And also I agree with everybody here. That's why this is a very hard question. But like truly superstar teams are rare. And usually you're only confident they are a truly superstar team if they already had a win. But if they already had a win, as investors, it might actually be hard for us to jump into the account and invest in them. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, team. I try to be as contrarian as possible, but I think team, especially because we're early stage. I mean, if you go to backstagecapital.com, our front page is just, we call them the headliners because we're Backstage Capital, and you'll just see our founders' faces. You'll have to click in to even know what their business is. So sometimes. We'll invest in companies that are just ideas if the founder is extraordinary. So yeah, it is a balancing act though, for sure it is. And I'm starting now to see how important the market is and the business is, and my weight is changing, but it's still heavily on the side of a strong team.
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
When you see a pitch deck what kind of return of investment are you looking at, expecting from a pitch deck, and within what time frame are you looking at?
I invest in companies that I think are going to return the fund, and so, and immediately, not immediately, obviously everyone needs help, but no, for real about that point, and I have disagreements with my team, and the way that we evaluate companies is going to be different, and the systems that we use, I think even on this panel are going to be different. We're very conviction driven, so we don't want too many people to hold veto power, so there are some companies we invested in that I disagreed with. There are some in companies that the deal flow team disagreed with. And Arlen said, hey, we're investing in this company, there's nothing you can do about it. And now they're doing great and we look dumb. And so, you know, the point is that when I go into a meeting, right, knowing that I'm never gonna like, well, sometimes I might, if I ask a really pointed question, I might sink a company, but it's very unlikely if someone has a lot of conviction. I wanna bring companies to the table that I have ultimate conviction in, where I'm like, this is it. This is gonna be the best company in our portfolio, and I have 20 reasons why, and you can't, like, just talk to this founder, they're amazing. That's how I wanna feel about a company. I don't wanna, this will be 4X maybe, and you know, I need real conviction.